Valkyrie Profile is a series I have fond memories of. It's also a series that doesn't have many games, so I was pretty stoked when Valkyrie Elysium was announced, since the last thing we really got was Valkyrie Anatomia, which was more of a mobile gacha game that's no longer in service. As someone who's enjoyed the Valkyrie Profile games, spin-off or not, I will take what I can get. The Valkyrie Profile series has always had a heavy Norse mythology setting and influence, and this game is no exception. In Valkyrie Elysium, you play the role of a new Valkyrie summoned by Odin to purify the souls roaming Midgard, as well as collect divine artifacts so Odin can defeat the Great Wolf Fenrir. Prior to the events of the game, the forces of Odin and Fenrir waged war against each other, which ultimately lasted in a stalemate which left both leaders critically injured, leaving the world on the brink of Ragnarok. While Valkyrie is purifying the souls in Midgard, Odin can recover so he can defeat Fenrir, and try to stem or prevent the events of Ragnarok. Of course, this differs from how Ragnarok is supposed to go, but who said this game is mythologically accurate? Nonetheless, Valkyrie travels down to Midgard to fight the corrupted souls who have become undead to purify them, and along the way recruit Einherjar, or warriors, to fight alongside her. As well as the undead standing in her way, Valkyrie would also clash weapons with another Valkyrie clad in black armour opposing Odin's will. The game makes an interesting departure from the side-scrolling JRPG approach of Valkyrie Profile and Valkyrie Profile 2, in favour of a more action-orientated experience. This also marks the first console game in the series not to be handled by developer Tri-Ace. But with these changes, does that make the game any good? Find out in The Good. I think the game looks pretty nice visually and sounds good. The game continues the trend set by the Valkyrie Profile series of using a muted colour palette, and I feel that it really works for the different locations that Valkyrie explores during the events of the game. This is complemented with some cel shading on objects further away in the distance so that the colours don't blend in too much and look like a mess, though I feel it does unnaturally stand out for things like gates. The game's soundtrack is once again handled by veteran Motoi Sakuraba, and he doesn't fail to disappoint with the game's music often invoking a melancholic feeling, which is appropriate given the state of the world. I do wish there was some better battle music though. It's really hard to top the battle theme of the first Valkyrie Profile game. Nonetheless, the visuals and music really work well for the game's setting, and that's something the series has been really good at over the years. The game's maps are very large, and it's not unusual to spend more than an hour per chapter if you choose to explore every nook and cranny of the map. It actually pays to, as you can find verdant and hollow blossoms throughout the levels, with the latter giving you an insight of how people lived in the area, and the former being very important for one of the game's 4 endings. Wandering souls can also be found in the maps as well, which enables the Valkyrie to take on side missions to fulfill their requirements so that they can move on. At the end of the level and each side quest, Valkyrie is graded on her performance, which can be affected by how much damage she had taken, whether she had died in the level or not, how many times she had summoned her Einherjar, as well as how many items she had used, to name a few. So it pays to limit using items, summoning lots, and avoiding taking heavy amounts of damage to get that S ranking. I think the game's story, while predictable if you're familiar with the other games in the series, is still serviceable. While the game only limits Valkyrie to recruiting only 4 Einherjar, the game will allow you to know them better, and you can even hear interactions between them too. Once you recruit the Einherjar, at certain points in the game they may ask Valkyrie to accompany them on a short side mission which will unlock some more details about them, how they lived, and ultimately, how they died. On top of that, you can also unlock additional moves they can perform when summoned, and when they attack. Each Einherjar is proficient in a fighting style as well as a certain element, which will make them essential for a lot of the encounters in the game, as I will talk about later. They can also be used to bypass various obstacles that Valkyrie will come across in the levels as well. Getting to know the Einherjar and learning about the way they live their lives is a staple of the Valkyrie Profile series as well, but I think there's a little more focus on their lives since we're only dealing with 4 Einherjar instead of the large group from Valkyrie Profile and Valkyrie Profile 2. I was a little mixed about the game's battle system, but overall I feel more positive about it than negative. When Valkyrie encounters an enemy, she can attack them with her weapon, cast spells, or summon her Einherjar to assist. Enemies have an element above them, and when they're hit by a spell, Einherjar, or Valkyrie's weapon with the matching element, an element break gauge will fill, and once filled, the enemy will enter a break state, leaving them at the mercy of your attacks. The break gauge does empty over time, and once emptied, the enemy will not be affected by an elemental weakness for a short amount of time. Whichever Einherjar Valkyrie has active can be selected, and Valkyrie's weapon will deal the same elemental damage matching the Einherjar as well. Some enemies are weak to certain weapons, and as you progress through, Valkyrie will collect new spells and weapons. Einherjar can be customised to stay active longer at the cost of using up more of the blue soul gauge found underneath Valkyrie's health bar. Spells and abilities can be cast at the cost of depleting your arts gauge found at the bottom of the screen. Valkyrie's health, soul gauge and art gauge can be increased through items, and upgrading Valkyrie's abilities through collecting gems dropped by enemies when defeated. She can also recover health, souls and arts this way. Valkyrie can also learn new moves this way and can unlock auto-summon conditions, which will automatically summon an Einherjar for a lower soul gauge cost when those conditions are met. Gems can also be used to upgrade weapons, which will increase the amount of physical damage and magical damage that Valkyrie can do, as well as unlock new moves that she can perform with them. While inputs are the same, depending on the weapon, Valkyrie may perform different attacks. All weapons I found have the same physical and magical attack growth, and at certain levels you can equip runes which can increase certain aspects to make them feel different and tailor them to your playstyle. Valkyrie can also gain proficiency using a weapon by constantly using it as well, and can have up to 2 weapons and items equipped to the D-pad for easy access. Another interesting feature which opens up more attack opportunities is the Soul Chain. The Soul Chain can be used in certain areas for Valkyrie to reach places she normally isn't able to reach, but it can be used in battle to close the distance between Valkyrie and her foe to great effect. One combo relies on you using the Soul Chain and then attacking an enemy to generate crystals that would replenish your soul gauge, which makes constantly summoning and maintaining your Einherjar a lot easier. However, Valkyrie Elysium does have its share of problems, and we'll be looking at those in the bad. While I did like fighting enemies in the game, I did not like fighting the game's camera. The camera often got in the way during fights, and it's even worse in narrow areas. This generally allowed enemies to easily get the jump on you as you don't see them approaching or you're fighting them at a weird angle. The enemy variety I feel is a little lacking as well. There's only a handful of enemy types which the game tries to mix up by having different versions of them with different elemental weaknesses. Once you really work out how to deal with them, it's just mindless swapping to the right element to get the job done, or casting the right spell. You can pause combat just to switch out Valkyrie's loadout to make things even easier if you don't happen to have the right weapon or spell on you to match an enemy's weakness. These aspects I think do make fighting enemies pretty trivial, and even the bosses, and it wasn't until the final battles of the game where I really felt threatened or worried. I also found the game's main hub world in Valhalla to be very empty. There's a large open area that you can run around and check out, but aside from Valkyrie, her 4 Einherjar and Odin, that's about as busy as the place gets. I get it, the world is on the brink of Ragnarok, but there should be gods other than Odin that are around, so why aren't they there? Why aren't any NPC soldiers or Odin's forces around to provide information, give out side quests, or just to make the place feel less empty? There could be a shop where Valkyrie could exchange crystals for items, or maybe she could materialise them like how Lenneth could from the first Valkyrie Profile. The closest thing I really got was a series of side quests that I could pick up from the library in Valhalla, or by talking to the Einherjar. I could also summon enemies in a room if I want to experiment with combos or strategies, which I think was pretty neat as well. At the end of the day, I'll admit Valhalla visually looks great, but it's just really empty. I think I've complained enough here, so it's about time I give the opinion. Valkyrie Elysium I think is a decent action game with nice visuals and music, a fairly predictable story with pretty interesting battle mechanics. But it is let down by having to constantly fight the camera, a lack of enemy variety since they only make them look slightly different, give them a visual elemental weakness and then call it a day, and I feel that the game's hub is just very empty. I still think if you like the other games in the Valkyrie Profile series, this is one that's still worth picking up, even if it is a spin-off to the series. The game was a good attempt, but it just leaves me wanting more, so here's hoping we can return to the main series with something new, or mess with the timeline more than Valkyrie Profile 2 already did. So with that, it's time for my rating. I would give Valkyrie Elysium a Verdant Blossom out of 10. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.